Hi, Mom. Good Shabbos. So, for this week, Parshat Vayigash, I thought I would just share a little bit of something. In the beginning of the Parsha, there's seemingly something that's brought up by the Or Chaim. It says, Vayigash elav Yehuda, Vayomer bi Adoni. So, immediately, Yehuda is coming forward and trying to approach. He's trying to approach Yosef. So the Or Chaim asks, why would he be approaching it? Clearly, from just the end of last week's Parsha, we understand that the proximity of the two of them is so close. What would be the need for Yehuda to approach Yosef? So there's so many answers to this, but the question is a good one. And there are many ways that one can approach another. And so just to open up, I thought that I would share a verse from Mishlei. And in it, it says, if you look at Kuf Gimel, Pasuk Yud Tet, so it says, Kamayim hapanim lapanim, kain lev ha'adam la'adam. So right here we see that how is one man supposed to treat the other? One man is supposed to see the commonality that he has with the other, not what differentiates us. And that was, in my opinion, that was what Yehuda was doing with Yosef. Yosef presumably having risen to the top of the echelons of Egypt and its own, and probably was somewhat steeped in its culture, at least superficially speaking. I'm sure he looked like an Egyptian. So Yehuda had to approach him and go beyond the level of what he saw in front of him. And so he related to him inside. He had to open up his heart. He approached him in his heart. He aroused the love and the compassion inside of him, and to hopefully get that out of Yosef as well. So that's the running theme that I want to keep in mind as far as how one should relate to another human being, going beyond the external, going beyond what you see in front of you. There are many, many different types of people that we have in our lives, and there are many different types of garments people wear, and there are many types of cultures and even belief systems. But to get down to the root of it, follow this verse in Mishlei, relating one man to another like the face of water relates to another face of water. Two bodies of water, they just mesh, they just collide. It doesn't matter if one is slightly different than the other. So along those lines, I wanted to bring forth a seemingly opposing view one might give. You may find that some of your rabbis would say, why would you be dealing with the non-Jews? They're not for you. They're not your culture. Stay as far away from them as possible. I have a proof. It says that in Devarim, I think it's Perek Zayin Pasuk Beis, so it says, Lo tenachem, that you should not, when you're encountering the all those 7 nations coming into the land of Israel, you should not be merciful with them. You should not find grace in them. Something along those lines. So a lot of rabbis use that as a proof text to demonstrate that you should stay away and not be involved with the other as much as possible. So this would not just be from the verse itself, but in Masaka Avodah Zarah, it also speaks about such a thing that you should not try to go and find the beauty within the culture of the non-Jewish way of life. So how can we respond to this? So one of the things that I was thinking about was you have in Masechet Sanhedrin. In Masechet Sanhedrin, there is the incident dealing with on Daf Chaf Aleph of Shlomo and taking on wives. So Shlomo thought that he could be above all of these tendencies, and he took an excess number of wives, and he increases his fleet of horses, and ultimately he thought that he could override all of this, but that wasn't the case, right? So what was his downfall? His downfall was that he went out and he sought those challenges. So you should not go out and put yourself in that state, but if it so much comes to you, then maybe this is really Hashem speaking to you. So if you find yourself in a place where you're encountering the other culture, not seeking it out, but it comes to you, like Yehuda. Yehuda came into to make a simple request that they have food, and all of a sudden he had to make face-to-face contact with this opposing cultural force, and so he viewed it as a sign from Hashem. And similarly, we are told to do the same. If we look at Masaka Brachot on Daf Nun Chet Amud Beis, so it speaks about when you make a bracha, all these different times that you're supposed to be thankful and make a bracha to Hashem. So some include that this one that I'm bringing, it should be with Hashem's name and not others. The Meiri brings that. But still, it says that Ra'ah Briot Tovot, that when you see beautiful creatures, V'ilanot Tovot, and beautiful trees, what do you say? Omer Baruch Shekacho Lo Ba'olamo. That, wow, blessed are you who makes such a world like this. And the exact example of someone who made that encounter was Rebbi Akiva himself. Rebbi Akiva, it says back on that same page of Masechet Avodah Zarah, that says that you should be weary and refrain from seeing and seeking out beautiful things. He comes around a corner, sees a Roman matron, and recites this bracha. He blesses Hashem for the beauty of which he just experienced. So this is part of a running Hasidic philosophy that deals with uplifting sparks, nefilas apayim. And one of the ways that's manifested is we try to remind ourselves that every day, that when we're beseeching God through our Shmona Esrei, we always bow our heads down and then come up, right? We're trying to express that we're here in this world so that when we encounter a descent, that we lift it up. There are sparks that are needed to be lifted, and we take that approach. So, in that way, what we are really doing is enacting a very fundamental principle that's brought up in Tehillim. In Tehillim, on Daf Kuf Gimel, Pasuk Yud Tet, it says, Adonai b'shamayim hechin kis'o, u'malchuto b'chol mashallah. That God, He is up in the thrones, I guess, of heaven. He's sitting there on His throne. But His kingdom, His rulership, it covers all of this world. And we, by His extension, assist in that covering of the whole world. Everything is to be noticed that it's Hashem that's ruling all. And so, on a somewhat deeper level, here's an encounter between Yehuda and Yosef. So I'm bringing this up because I know that you like Sfirot. And Yehuda represents Malchut. And Yosef represents Yesod. And this encounter, when he is saying, Bi Adoni, he's saying that his Malchut is invested within him. And now he's trying to Vayigash, he's trying to approach. He's trying to make that connection to Yesod, to the foundation of all things. So he says, Bi Adoni Yadaber No. He's now wanting to make that connection, that manifestation by speaking, and he makes a solid connection between the two. So you can understand it on a superficial level of what he's attempting to do by coming forward, and he's trying to say something into Yosef's ear. On a deeper level, he's trying to connect heart to heart, and I hope in that way we understand sometimes what the trials in life are bringing to us. That if you go out and seek them, so sometimes those are of your own doing. But if you're going along trying to act in whatever fashion the Eibishter puts you in, and you get encountered with a trouble, or you get encountered with an obstacle, let's say an attractive Gentile, as Rebbi Akiva was confronted with. That's it. You just channel it immediately, and you recognize that this is Hashem, and never forgetting that it is a person who's in front of you and should be treated as such. And we know that the Torah is speaking to us even today. So when Yehuda is approaching Yosef, this brother of his, there are many brothers of ours in the world, right? This brother of his, he connected to his heart. He didn't connect to the viceroy aspect. He didn't connect to that cloak, that mask that was his Egyptian garbs. He connected to the fact that he's his brother. They're one. Jews love each other. We're there for each other. And when we arouse that inside of us, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu is one with us as well. Thanks. Good Shabbos, Mom.